I own a telemedicine company, and here are three things that are fundamentally rotten about the industry that must be corrected. Let's discuss it. The number one thing are fake reviews. Now, I'm not suggesting that the reviews themselves are fake. I'm suggesting that companies hide reviews. What do I mean? Let's take Trustpilot. I could point to company after company after company that have an image on their website that says 4.9 Trustpilot review rating. But if you go to trustpilot.com and search that company, you will find that their review is different in basically every circumstance. And I realize that you can't stay up to this on a day-to-day basis, but the difference between a 4.9 rating and, say, a 3.3 rating is ridiculously massive. In one situation, nearly everybody's happy, which is why it's on the landing page. This is to get sales. But then if you actually look at their rating and it's 3.3, well, now you're closing in on about half of people being really unhappy that they dealt with that company. And they'll have some really negative things to say on Trustpilot, but that information is never shown to consumers because consumers just take that image as the truth. They don't actually go and look at Trustpilot. And perhaps this is a little bit on Trustpilot for doing this, but I think we all need to look in ourselves in the mirror and say, are we honest people? And is this image on our website honest or dishonest? Now, the second thing that drives me absolutely crazy is not thinking of ourselves as a healthcare company, but instead thinking of ourselves as a sales company. What do I mean by that? Well, let me tell you why I started this company. I started this company because I had gonorrhea, tested negative for gonorrhea, and then passed it along to somebody else and hurt somebody that I cared about, despite me testing and trying to do what I thought was the right thing. You see, the company that I used for testing says that their testing is the most thorough available, but it tests with a blood test and a urine test. There is no throat swab test. And because there is no throat swab test, it completely misses oral gonorrhea, which research shows, many research papers shows, is the majority of gonorrhea cases. I'm looking at a study from about a month ago that showed that out of 45 million gonorrhea and chlamydia tests in the United States, only 1% of women received a throat swab test, but those women were twice as likely to have gonorrhea in their throats than their genitals. So testing that misses the throat misses a lot of cases of gonorrhea. Let's just leave it at that. And in my case, that's exactly what happened. And I ended up hurting somebody that I cared about. And that's why I started this company. Now, if I was to sell a test that only had a blood test and a urine test, you better believe that I would tell the consumers that. I would say this testing, this does test for gonorrhea, yes, and you'll see that on the landing page, test for gonorrhea, but it does not indicate your gonorrhea status if you have oral sex. And I think companies have just worked on their sales copy, and I do it too. We try to have great sales copy, but never forget, everybody, that a telemedicine company is just like if somebody goes to the doctor, they are looking for guidance and they're looking for accurate information. Now, the third thing, and I guarantee you've encountered this if you have used literally any telemedicine company, are subscriptions. The reason why companies have subscriptions is because it's called recurrent revenue. And you know why it's recurrent revenue? Because people forget to cancel or pause their subscriptions. There's basically zero medical reason in most circumstances to have subscriptions. It is entirely a revenue issue. Let me pull back the curtain and tell you how telemedicine works. No matter what company you go to, I'm sure it works very similar. I can't speak for all companies, but the way it works at ours is when you come to shamelesscare.com and you order something, I pay a doctor to review your medical information. I pay that doctor whether that doctor approves your prescription or not. But if that doctor does approve your prescription, then your prescription is valid for a year. And that is a huge bunch of our cost. All right. So obviously, I want you to come back and refill because we lost money on that initial sale. We hope to make money on the refill. That's why these companies have automatic refills and subscriptions. And we did too. We did. I don't mind telling you that we had subscriptions as well. But what happened with them will blow your mind and forever change the way you think about subscriptions if you have even a single decent bone in your body. Many payments failed. And when they failed, I would go into our payment processor and look. And the number one reason were insufficient funds. The number one reason was insufficient funds. And that made me think, what if that payment had went through? And what if that was that patient's last $60, last $70, last $80? I don't know about you, but I've been in a financial situation like that when I was younger. Next thing you know, you're getting overdraft fees because you weren't expecting that $60 debit. It can really throw your life into a tailspin that might take months, or I dare say even years, to recover from. And when I realized that that's what subscriptions were doing for the consumer, we got rid of them. And it was a bad business decision. Because when you leave it up to consumers to refill only when they need more medication, well, guess what? Sometimes they never need any medication ever again. Or they might go to the next company that's offering them 1 month free. Just sign up for our subscription plan. It gives them an opportunity to jump around and look at other offerings that are out there. But it was the right thing to do. And so these are the things that I think telemedicine companies absolutely need to work on. The number one thing is be transparent with your consumers, because if you're telling them that 4.9 out of, and so these are the things that I think absolutely need to be fixed with the telemedicine industry. If you notice any, drop them in the comments and we'll talk soon.